We know somebody out there knows something. We know where her cell phone was found. We know what happened when she left the club. We know she got into a car. We have all that. We just need someone to step up to the plate and do the right thing and contact Crime Stoppers, 713-222-TIPS, online, www.crime-stoppers.org, mobile app, over 20 languages. Do this for Felicia, do this for her father, Kevin, do this for her family, and send a message out that we are not going to allow young women to just simply disappear without a trace and not get any answers. There's many questions, obviously, that are out there, and we need the answers, because right now, grief is intensified without justice. And sadly, right now, justice is lacking for Felicia and her family.
It was the kind of discovery that sent shockwaves through Texas. Deep in the dense, unforgiving wilderness of Sam Houston National Forest, human remains were found. At first, they were just bones, weathered by time, scattered by nature. But when forensic experts ran their tests, the truth was revealed. Nearly a year had passed since Felicia Johnson, a 24-year-old woman from San Diego, vanished. For months, her family had searched for her, hoping, praying, that she would come home alive. But on February 7, 2023, those hopes were shattered. The DNA results left no doubt. The remains belonged to Felicia Johnson. And the condition of her body told an even darker story. Felicia hadn't just been killed. She had been brutally murdered, possibly dismembered, her body discarded like trash in the wilderness. Her life, her dreams, her future, all stolen by someone she never should have met. But who was Felicia Johnson? And how did she end up crossing paths with a killer? On April 15, 2022, in Houston, Texas, Felicia had traveled there with big aspirations. She had dreams of working in the beauty and modeling industries, and like many young women, she was looking for ways to support herself. The city's thriving nightlife scene offered opportunities, and she hoped to find work as an exotic dancer, a stepping stone toward her real passion. She thought she was taking a step toward a better life. Instead, she was walking straight into the hands of a predator. On the night of April 15, 2022, Felicia was last seen at the Cover Girls nightclub. She had reportedly applied for a job there, but at some point, she left. After that, silence. Her friends and family grew anxious when she didn't check in. Felicia wasn't the type to disappear without a word. Hours passed. Then days. Then, the discovery. Felicia's bloodied purse and cell phone were found near Bear Creek Pioneers Park. But there was no sign of her. Her father, Kevin Johnson, knew deep in his heart something was wrong. His daughter was in danger. He pleaded for help, for answers, for anything that could bring her home. But as the days turned to weeks, one question remained unanswered. Where was Felicia Johnson? And more terrifyingly, who had taken her? Before we go further in this chilling story, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and do not forget to turn on the notification bell icon. Thank you. Now let's continue with the story.
The search for a 24-year-old who vanished after leaving a Houston club continues as Fox 26's Gabby Hart speaks with that woman's father one-on-one today. Joining us live from outside the Cover Girls adult nightclub. And Gabby, we understand this was the last place that she was seen.
It is. Felicia Johnson traveled from San Diego to Houston hoping to work here at Cover Girls. We're told that after leaving an audition, she got a ride from a customer that she didn't know. It was the last time anyone saw or heard from this young woman.
You guys, he's so scared.
A brother wondering when his big sister will return home, and a father holding out hope that she's still alive.
Man, I'm just trying to keep myself together. I'm hoping that she's alive.
24-year-old Felicia Johnson was last seen on Friday, April 15th. She was leaving Cover Girl Strip Club on West Little York Road. Her father, Kevin Johnson, says his daughter traveled to Houston to visit family, and she tried to get a job as a dancer at Cover Girls.
These people are young adults, and they just living their life, and nobody's perfect. and sometimes people make mistakes.
After being turned down for the position, she was waiting on an Uber when a customer offered her a ride back to her hotel.
One of their regulars, one of their VIPs.
When no one heard from Felicia Friday night, they became worried. On Saturday morning, they tracked her phone to Bear Creek Park, 4 miles from the strip club where she was last seen. It was found on the side of the road, covered in blood.
Beyond the headlines, beyond the tragic fate that awaited her, Felicia was a daughter, a friend, a young woman filled with dreams and ambitions. Born and raised in San Diego, California, Felicia was known for her kind heart, determination, and bright spirit. She had a way of lighting up a room, a natural energy that made people gravitate toward her. She had big plans for her future. Felicia had always been passionate about beauty and fashion, dreaming of one day working in the hair and makeup industry. She loved the art of transformation, the way a touch of color, a sweep of a brush, could bring confidence and joy to someone's face. But dreams require money. And like so many young women with ambitions, she was looking for a way to support herself while working towards something greater. In April 2022, Felicia set her sights on Houston, Texas. The city had a thriving nightlife scene, filled with opportunities for women looking to make fast money. She had heard of other women who had started as exotic dancers and used their earnings to launch businesses, pay for school, or pursue their real passions. To Felicia, this was just a stepping stone, a temporary stop on the way to something bigger. So, with hope in her heart and plans for the future, she packed her bags and headed to Houston. But what Felicia didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the city she believed held opportunities for her also held something else. Felicia was street smart, but she was also trusting. She believed in the good in people. She wasn't naive, but she had faith that if you treated people well, they would do the same in return. But not everyone plays by those rules. And in Houston, a predator was waiting. Someone who had been watching. Someone who was searching for the perfect victim. Someone who saw Felicia not as a young woman with dreams, but as an opportunity. An opportunity to kill. What Felicia thought was just another night, a job interview, a chance to make some money, would turn into something far more sinister. Because she wasn't just meeting a potential employer. She was meeting a murderer. And she would never come home. Felicia Johnson had only been in Houston for a short time when she disappeared. She had arrived with excitement, hope, and a plan. But somewhere along the way, she made a connection that would lead her straight into danger. Like many young women looking for work in the nightlife industry, Felicia turned to social media to network and make connections. It was there, on Snapchat, that she first came into contact with a man named Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, 28 years old. Secretive. Dangerous. To Felicia, he was just another potential client. Someone offering quick cash, $500 for an in-person meeting. Maybe she hesitated. Maybe she had doubts. But at some point, she agreed. And that decision would seal her fate. On the night of April 15, 2022, Felicia was last seen at CoverGirl's nightclub. She had applied for a job there, hoping to earn some money before pursuing her real dreams. But at some point after leaving the club, she disappeared. Her friends became concerned when hours passed with no word from her. Felicia was always on her phone, texting, posting, checking in. But that night, nothing. No texts. No calls. No social media updates. The silence was deafening. Then, the discovery. Not of Felicia herself, but of something chilling. Her blood-stained phone and purse, found discarded near Bear Creek Pioneers Park, miles away from where she was last seen. A horrifying sign. A warning that something terrible had happened. Her father, Kevin Johnson, immediately knew. His daughter wasn't missing, she had been taken. He pleaded for help, reaching out to anyone who would listen. If you know anything, please, help bring my daughter home. But even as the search for Felicia intensified, a darker truth was already unfolding. Because while her family was desperately searching for her, the man responsible for her disappearance was already covering his tracks. And what investigators would soon uncover would turn this missing persons case into something far more horrifying. A cold, calculated murder. A killer who planned everything. A crime so disturbing, it would haunt everyone who heard it. But at that moment, Felicia was still missing. And the only person who knew what happened to her was the man who had lured her in. Felicia's family and friends didn't want to believe the worst. But as the hours stretched into days, and the days into weeks, the reality began to sink in. Felicia wasn't just missing. Something horrible had happened to her. Then came the discovery that shattered any remaining hope. Her cell phone, smeared with blood. Her purse, discarded on the ground. Both found near Bear Creek Pioneers Park, a public park, miles from where Felicia had been last seen. It was clear, Felicia had been attacked. The police were quick to respond, but the trail was cold. There were no immediate leads. No suspect. No sign of Felicia. Only the chilling evidence left behind in the park, her blood, her belongings. But sometimes, even when everything seems hopeless, the truth has a way of creeping to the surface. As investigators turned their attention to the digital footprints left behind by Felicia, a darker truth began to unfold. The deeper they dug, the more disturbing the evidence became. Digital forensics, the careful analysis of phone records, texts, and online activity, revealed something far more chilling. Felicia had been in contact with a man named Chukwuebuka Nwobodo. He was the last person to see her alive. And it didn't take long for investigators to trace the trail that led straight to him. Nwobodo's story began to unravel as the police uncovered his disturbing behavior in the days leading up to Felicia's disappearance. It all pointed to a cold, premeditated crime. Hours after picking Felicia up, Nwobodo drove her to his apartment. It's unclear exactly what transpired once they arrived, but the evidence suggested that what followed was nothing short of brutal. The police discovered a saw, trash bags, towels, a flashlight, items commonly used in body disposal, purchased by Nwobodo after he picked Felicia up. What had he been planning? What did he think he could get away with? But that was just the beginning. A search of Nwobodo's apartment revealed bloodstains that matched Felicia's. There were latex gloves, a kitchen knife, and even a shovel. His car, too, told a story of violence. Traces of Felicia's blood were found in the back seat and trunk. And then came the most chilling discovery of all. The internet search history. Among the most disturbing phrases were, "How to be a serial killer. How does one plan a murder without getting caught? How to dispose of a body." It was as though Nwobodo had been preparing for this moment. Each search, each purchase, each action seemed carefully calculated, premeditated. He hadn't just killed Felicia in a moment of rage, he had planned it. The authorities had enough evidence to arrest him. But there was a problem. They had no idea where he was. He had disappeared. Almost a year after Felicia Johnson was reported missing, the California woman's possibly dismembered remains were found in Texas, and the man suspected of killing her is still at large. A worker with the Texas Department of Transportation called police around noon on February 7th after discovering possible human bones in an area of the Sam Houston National Forest near Flamingo Lakes and Highway 149. When deputies responded, it was determined that the remains were, in fact, human, and samples were sent for DNA and dental record analysis. It is with a heavy heart that we report dental records have confirmed that the human remains are that of missing person Felicia Johnson of California, the sheriff's office said. Our hearts go out to the Johnson family and friends, and we hope this brings them some closure. The reason why her body has been found is so that she can return to get justice for herself, Kevin Johnson said, per the outlet. This is the first piece of the puzzle that is going to allow law enforcement to do their job and bring these guys to justice. Police say Johnson was visiting Houston, Texas, from her hometown of San Diego, California, last year in search of work, in 2022. While in Houston, she applied for a job at a local exotic dancing venue. Johnson was reported missing on April 16th of last year after her bloodied cell phone and purse were discovered near a community park. Detectives later identified Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, 28, as a suspect and charged him last June 9th with murder and tampering with evidence in connection with Johnson's death. He had previously been taken into custody on May 13th, but was released without charges. Authorities say evidence shows that Nwobodo, who remains at large, picked up Johnson from an apartment complex and drove her to his apartment, where he allegedly killed and dismembered her, before disposing of her body and personal items in an attempt to cover up the crime. According to court documents, Johnson and Nwobodo first communicated on Snapchat, and Nwobodo agreed to pay her $500 for an in-person meeting. Following Johnson's disappearance, the suspect allegedly purchased a saw, trash bags, towels, and a flashlight. During a search of Nwobodo's car, police allegedly discovered latex gloves, a kitchen knife, and a shovel, as well as Johnson's blood in the trunk and back seat, the charging documents allege. The woman's DNA was also found in his apartment. A search of the suspect's internet history revealed that he allegedly Googled how to be a serial killer and how does one plan a murder without getting caught, the documents state, per the outlet. Johnson was described as a beautiful young lady who aspired to work in the hair, makeup, and modeling industries. To this day, Chukwuebuka Nwobodo remains at large. Authorities continue their efforts to track him down, but as time passes, concerns grow that he may have fled the country or assumed a new identity. Meanwhile, Felicia's family, friends, and advocates continue to demand justice. Felicia Johnson's case serves as a tragic reminder of the dangers lurking in the digital world. Young women, particularly those in vulnerable industries, often fall prey to predators hiding behind screens. Her story highlights the urgent need for increased awareness and protection against online exploitation. For her family, the pain of losing Felicia will never fade, but their fight for justice continues. They refuse to let her be forgotten, and they won't stop until the man responsible for her death is held accountable. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Felicia Johnson's life was stolen by a monster, but her story will not be buried in silence. The search for her killer remains active, and the plea for information continues. Felicia's dreams were cut short, but her voice echoes through the fight for justice. May she rest in peace, and may her story serve as a warning to others, because the internet is not always what it seems, and behind some screens lies danger beyond imagination. Thanks for watching, and if you like stories like this, support this channel by subscribing and turning on the notification bell icon so that you will be notified whenever new videos are released.